Yitz, let's try to understand Tzara'at.
Yeah, this definitely needs a deeper look.
This week, Parashat Tazria, and Parashat Tazria takes us into the entire world of Tumah and Tahara, being pure and what can make a person impure. And within this great topic of Tumah and Tahara, we have what we call Tzara'at, Nega Tzara'at, where in the beginning of Perek Yud Gimel, the Torah starts to describe to us a situation in which a person notices that there's something wrong with their skin, something's going on with their body. And then the Torah says they have to go to the Cohen. So a few questions. First of all, why does the person have to go to the Cohen? If there's something wrong with their body, let them take care of it, let them go cure it with a doctor or something like that. Why go to the Cohen? But more than that, when you look at the pasuk, it says V'huva el Cohen. He has to be brought to the Cohen. Why can't he go by himself? Why does he have to be brought to the Cohen? But the questions continue even more than that, because then the pasuk tells us that he has to be brought to Aharon specifically, or his sons, even though we don't know of any other Kohanim back then. Later on it says HaKohen. So why does it start off with Aharon or his sons? Why doesn't it just say HaKohen also there? But then more than that, also when Aharon sees, or when one of the Kohanim see this nega, they have to declare it as tzara'at, and then the Torah says again, v'ra'au hakohen, they have to see it. So what exactly is going on over here? What is this issue? What is the story behind this, what we call mar'ot, the sightings of negaim, of diseases? What is the idea behind the concept that the Kohen has to see it, has to look at it? Why is it even important to go to the Kohen to begin with the tzara'at? What exactly is tzara'at about? What is the basis for this disease, for this thing that is called tzara'at?
Well, it's right away clear here from the Psukim that this isn't just a physical disease. As you said, we go to the Cohen for this, and there's this whole sort of spiritual process of purifying ourselves from it. There's obviously something spiritual going on here. And as Chazal teach us, and we see also with the story with Miriam later, that Tzara'at is somehow tied to Lashon Hara, to speaking badly about people, to looking at the world around you and looking at people around you in a negative way. And maybe when we look at it like this, it can help us understand exactly what's going on here. Because the first thing you asked is, why does he have to be brought to the Cohen? Why doesn't he just go to the Cohen if he needs to go to the Cohen? Is he so sick that he can't just go himself? Obviously, that's not what's going on. But maybe that's part of the problem here. And in our Parsha, we're focused first on the problem. And the next Parsha, we'll focus more on the cure, on the process of coming out of this. But first of all, the first stage of fixing a problem is truly understanding it. And maybe the first stage is recognizing it. And it seems that the person with the tzara'at maybe doesn't even notice that he has a tzara'at. Other people bring him to the Cohen. Other people point it out to him, because people who usually speak negatively about other people, they don't think they're doing anything wrong. I just said something. He really is bad. He really did something wrong. And it's important to remember, sometimes people get confused, because in our world, if you say something bad about someone who did something bad, then that's okay. It's only bad when you say something about someone who didn't do something. Not in the Torah. The concept of Lashon Hara is when you say something bad about someone who actually did something bad. So what did I do? I was just saying the truth. I was just telling about what he actually did. I didn't make this up. I didn't lie. I didn't do anything wrong. So the first stage of it all is the fact that he's not even aware. And therefore other people around him have to point to him and have to sort of bring him to the Cohen. Listen, something needs to be done here. There's something wrong here. But this continues to the next step, because what does the Cohen do? As you were saying, he looks, he sees. And we see an interesting process. First, it says he looks and sees the nega. He sees, the problem. He looks, if it's on your hand, if it's on wherever it is, he looks at that. But he doesn't give his psak at that point. At the end of looking at it, and he sees what the nega looks like, he still doesn't say you're tameh. Only then it says v'ra'au hakohen v'timeh. Then he sees him, not the nega. He started by seeing the problem, but then he sees him, and only then he's metameh. And maybe that's teaching us another thing. You know what your problem is? Your problem is that all you see is people's problems. You look at the problem and you never zoom out and see everything else. You're right, there is some problem there. There is something that needs to be cleaned, that needs to be fixed. You're stuck there. You're not able to look beyond that. You're focused on the problem, and that's all you see. If you saw a problem and you wanted to fix it, you would actually go talk about it with him. But you don't. You go to other people. You know why you go to other people? Because you don't believe that he has a way of even nothing coming out of it because all you see is the nega. And the Cohen teaches you, you know why you're coming to me first? Because I'm going to teach you how to look at things. And I'm going to look at the nega, but the next step, I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to look at you. And only when I look at the full picture can I continue the process. And it's interesting because when he zooms out and he sees you, what does he say? You're tameh. Well, that doesn't seem like a good thing. But when we follow on with the Psukim, we'll actually see it is. Because, for example, someone who is all covered in a nega, where he has nothing in his skin, which is okay, he's not tameh. Tameh means that there's just a little something that needs to be purified, that everything is beautiful, everything is pure, everything is good, and there's one little thing that we need to fix, we need to clean. You have hope. You have a lot more than hope. All of you is good besides for that one little thing. Therefore, only once you zoom out and see all the good, then you're able to begin the process. And it starts by saying, okay, all of you is pure. You have one part that needs to be fixed. Let's focus on that. Let's go through the process, through the tuma, through the process of the tahara. But the last question you asked was also about why Aaron. We can go to any Cohen. But I think it's clear when we look at it like this, because Aaron symbolizes the person of Ava, the person who cared about shalom, about bringing peace between people. He sometimes played around with the truth just to make peace. He used his words not to bring damage, even when it was true. He used his words to bring peace, to bring good in the world. And therefore, when it's telling you, you want to cure the Tzara'at, what you need to do is bring this person to Aaron. Whether it's Aaron or whether it's a Cohen many generations later, it doesn't matter. But the idea is you need to connect him to Aaron. That's the cure for his problem. He needs to connect through Aaron, and only with Aaron's involvement or Aaron's approach to life's involvement in this process can you lift someone out of that place of this lashon hara and this negative approach to the people around him. And I once heard a beautiful thing in the name of Rav Sabato. He says the following. He says, there's so many halachot of lashon hara, and do I have to remember all these details? If it's this, when do I say something? When do I not say something? It's too complicated. How can I actually remember it? And he said, it's very simple. If you take one rule, you'll never make a mistake in any of these halachot. And the rule is love. He says, if you truly love everyone and you truly care about everyone, then obviously you would only say things that benefit them, that would be good for them. You'll never say something that will bring any damage or any pain to them. If you focus on being Aaron, if you focus on that love and caring for other people, all the details become very clear. Yes, sometimes we need to say something, we need to take care of certain things, but if it's coming from a place of love, from a place of Aaron, then you're on the right track and you really won't come to that negative place. That's the cure. The cure of this person who doesn't even see his problem to start with is to learn how to see things in the world, to learn how to zoom out and see the bigger picture and see the person and not just the problem, and to learn the midah of Aaron, of being able to ohev shalom, ve'odef shalom, and really bring peace and bring people together. That is the cure for the Tzara'at.
Beautiful, beautiful. And hearing what you're saying, it's hard not to connect to what's been going on in our lives in Eretz Yisrael for the past week, what's been going on in general, where many times in life things are happening and we always look for reasons behind them. What is going on? Why are these things happening? What can we do to make the situation better? And the number one thing to remember and know about Tzara'at is that it's a physical manifestation of a spiritual problem. It's not really a physical disease. It's not about the physical symptoms of the disease, but it's about what's going on the spiritual level of that person. So much so that even there's an isur, it's forbidden to cut off the Tzara'at or to try to get rid of it physically. You have to go to the Cohen, and the Cohen has to look at it and cure the person from that Tzara'at. That's how you get rid of Tzara'at. And even the Rambam, when he ends off Hilchot Tzara'at, he says, like you were saying, that Tzara'at comes because lashon hara, because people speak badly, slander about other people. And the right way to live your life is to make sure you keep your spiritual life straight. Lechavenu chotav, that your path, your ways of life are always as straight as possible, that you don't defect left or right, and you try to keep yourself as pure as possible in order to stay away from these kind of diseases, in order to stay away from these kind of problems. And really, not only the Rambam, but also the Ramban on Sefer Vayikra, Parshat B'chukatai, says that back in the day when people would get sick for any disease, not only Tzara'at, they would go to doctors, but they would also go to the Nevi'im, to the spiritual leaders of that time, in order to understand what they have to correct with themselves, what they have to do better with themselves in order to get rid of that disease, in order to get rid of that bad thing that's happening to them, going back to what's going on today. And again, especially after this past week in Eretz Yisrael, where bad things have taken it to a new level. And talking about the Rambam and talking about fixing our ways and doing tshuva and trying to correct ourselves also on the spiritual level, we have to remember the words from the Rambam at the beginning of the Chot Ta'anit, where he first of all brings the pasuk from Sefer Devarim, where it says, when there's a war in your land, in your country, you have to sound the alarms. You have to sound the alarms to tell people to start doing tshuva. The Rambam says, Al kol tzara shelo tavo, and any bad thing that may happen, you have to sound the alarm. Obviously, even more so when such terrible things are happening in our streets, we have to sound the alarm for tshuva. And the Rambam says, this is the essence of doing tshuva, is not to ignore what's happening in the world and try to say to ourselves, oh, maybe we have to fight back over here and fight back over there. Yes, we have to do those things, but more importantly, we have to look at it as a waking up call, as an alarm to tell us that tshuva is needed, that we have to improve ourselves both on the physical level, but more importantly on the spiritual level. As the Rambam continues over there, that you should not say davar ze midarchei haolam. This is part of the way the world is happening. Every few years we have this terror cycle. Every few years this happens. No, we can't accept it. We can't let it go without seeing what it is, what is really going on, and calling it out and stopping our ways like we have to do when we do tshuva, like we do in Chodesh Elul every year. Sometimes it also happens to us in the middle of the year, not only in Chodesh Elul. And looking at this week's Parsha, as I was saying, and looking at what's going on, you can't turn a blind eye to what's going on in the streets. We have to remind ourselves, we can't accept it. We can't continue with our life as if nothing is happening. Yes, we should continue on with our life, continue to build, because that's the way we really win. But we should also stop and try to correct our own ways, try to do the tshuva like the Rambam says, and like it says in this week's Parsha, go to the Cohen, go back to the sources, go back to the spiritual leader, go back to the Torah, and from there, try to correct our ways, try to improve our ways, each one individually, that in Mitzvah Hashem, hopefully HaKadosh Baruch Hu will see us correcting our ways, will see us trying to do this good, trying to be better, and then hopefully HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the strength to overcome our enemies, as the pasuk in Devarim says, V'niskartem b'Hashem, we will go back to our sources, V'nosha'atem me'oivechem, and you will be redeemed from your enemies.
Yeah, maybe all of this Parsha is really teaching us about this connection between the two. Because as you said, many times when we see a physical problem, we try to fix it physically. And when there's a spiritual problem, then we'll fix it spiritually. But the problem is that the spiritual problems we often don't see as we started. Sometimes we need people around us to wake us up. And therefore the Torah teaches us that there's a reason that you have a physical manifestation of the spiritual problem, because otherwise you don't notice it. So if now you have that physical manifestation and all you do is try to fix the physical, you're missing the point. The spiritual problems, or the things that we need to fix spiritually, will always somehow need to be expressed physically, otherwise we'll never notice them. So the Torah teaches us, when you do notice them, don't say, oh, it's just a physical problem and let's go fix the physical. And we ignore the fact that it's really that manifestation of that spiritual thing. So what the Torah is saying, or what the Rambam you brought is saying, is exactly that. When you see that physical thing, yes, you need to deal with that physical battle, but you also need to look at what possibly you could improve spiritually. What else needs to be fixed? What else needs to be improved on a spiritual level? Because the fact that you saw it on the physical level, it's not limited there. It's just the mar'eh of the nega. It's how it's seen. Seeing is the external side of things. You meet the problem on the surface of the skin, but it's expressing a problem that goes much deeper than the skin, that starts much deeper. And if you want to truly fix it, you have to fix the root of the problem and not just the surface.
Exactly. And we said that this whole parsha begins that tumot and taharot, tumah and tara. Tumah is the exact opposite of tzara'at. Tumah is a spiritual outcome to something that happened physically. Here we're saying the exact opposite. Tzara'at, although it might look like something physical on the surface, but it's rooted in something a lot deeper, in something spiritual that requires you to fix and improve on a spiritual level. And like we were saying, that this is why sometimes we need that shaking up by someone else. We need we need to sound the alarm and let it be known that this is what is required to do now. Of course, deal with it on the physical level, but more importantly, deal with it also on the spiritual level. And Emir Hashem, let's hope that this week was the last week of these kind of things, and all of Am Yisrael will see Yeshuot v'nechamot and Bsorot Tovot very soon.
Amen, Shkoyach, Bsorot Tovot, and Shabbat Shalom and Chodesh Tov.
Shabbat Shalom, Chodesh of the Redemption, Chodesh HaGeulah, שנזכה במהרה, גאולה שלמה.